with probably the biggest thing and the proudest thing that I think me and you are a part of, and that was the tough customer talk.
Okay.
And the reason why I want to lead with tough customers, I want to lead with the most, before we lose anybody's attention, let's start out with the big thing. So what was the idea? Like, let's start with, tough customer was your brainchild. How does it start?
It started out and we called it, I'm not good at naming stuff, but we were talking about calling it soft landings for veterans. And it had to do with the homeless crisis. It had to do with the fact that every year in the spring, people get evicted. In the fall, they get evicted. It's almost cyclical. And for various reasons, they weren't able to pay their rent. They decided that they were going to pay their heating bill instead of paying their rent, making hard choices. And we saw a lot of people falling into this cycle. So we got Legal Aid of Southeast Pennsylvania involved with the Veterans Multi-Service Center and my office. And what Legal Aid would do is they would make sure that veterans were afforded due process so that they were not unlawfully evicted. And then at the same time, Veterans Multi-Service Center would bring them grant money or enter them into a VA program to get them rapidly rehoused so that they didn't spend time in the shelters. That's where it started. And then we started getting calls and we started getting people. And what Tough Customer talks about is it's about the people that somehow maybe fall between the cracks, or veterans that they have. Well, let me back up. Veterans wait because we're taught to wait.
Yeah.
We're taught that, if you go and you're on the battlefield, and understand, I'm a Coast Guard guy. There's no battlefield for me. All of my battles were with the elements and with the ocean.
Yep.
But it's, you're on the battlefield and I imagine you get shot and you don't call for a medic until you need one, because there could be someone out there that needs help more. And that's ingrained into us. So veterans wait. And as a result, now they end up having these tangled lives where they have all of these longstanding problems. And it was the kind of people, tough customers are the kind of people or the kind of clients that we have where one agency really couldn't help them out. They needed at least 2-3 different agencies. We have somewhere around 18 different agencies on Tough Customer Talk right now. So at the federal, state, local level, VFWs, American Legions, I'm pretty picky about who I allow to be on the call as a provider.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we do a pretty good job of protecting veterans' identity, because it would be like Dennis M. or Walt H. or Bob H. or Susie Q. I just made that up, or something like that. We don't give the whole name, and we don't have to worry about privacy regulations. But you're on it. I mean, I could talk a starving dog off a meat truck. What do you think about it?
So yeah, it's very rewarding, and as a veteran, sitting there and hearing all of these, you bring up, hey, this person's homeless, and you hear one group say, okay, well, does he qualify for this? And then another group, no, but okay, he doesn't qualify, but is he a combat veteran, or does he have this designation? And everybody's trying to fight to take care of that person, and take care of that veteran to make sure that they're taken care of. And it's really rewarding. And when you give me a task and you say, hey, Walt, this guy just needs somebody to talk to him. He just needs, as a VFW, we don't have like we can't house people. We can't necessarily feed them. Yeah, we can make a monetary donation and do those things. And we love doing those as well. But when it's just, hey, Walt, this guy just needs somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
And
we get a lot of that. And everyone on Tough Customer Talk, they're all volunteers. They all work for their agency, and it's all work time. They don't have to be on the call. They want to be on the call. We recently started getting different police departments involved as well, because they know who the veterans in their neighborhood and in their jurisdiction, they know who the people are that are having a hard time. But they're all volunteers, and they're all a little, myself included, a little frustrated, because every agency that's on there can only do so much. There's a stopping point for authority, for funding, for availability, personnel resources, things like that. So it's like you want to help someone, but you can only take it so far. But there's someone else on that call. Like you said, there's some other agency that will say, you know what, I'll take it from here. The person also has mental health issues. The person is also over 65. Average age of a veteran in Pennsylvania is 65 years of age.
Wow.
But so we have a lot of the aging issues that come, but the Office of Senior Services is on the call too. They pick it right up. So
mobile crisis as well. I know we push a lot of them, because they're good at getting on the phone and just, giving them that hug. But some veterans want to talk to a veteran,
Yeah.
That's in the essence, and I say this all the time, that the VFW was kind of the first PTSD group, because before we understood what PTSD was, I wanted to talk to somebody about my traumas with somebody who I already understood it, who somebody was already there. I didn't have to explain to you what it felt like to be in war. And that's kind of what the VFW and American Legion were kind of started as. And everybody thinks them as the smoky bars. And I'm not saying that they're not, I'll tell you this. And I think Nate Smith, who's the next commander, every commander has been pushing to get the smoking out of the bars. But we still have canteens. We still have those, but they're not the focal point of what we do. It really is the veterans talking to veterans. It's giving the veterans another home. I tell people all the time when they join up, hey, welcome home. This is your house, and I expect you to treat it like it's your house. I expect you to, come in here and act like it's your house. So give it that respect.
And I can validate that statement because a lot of veterans that I deal with, veterans in need, either with their spouse or the veterans are alone. There are so many of them that are just alone. Yeah. That's it. They don't have a person in the world. Either they do, and they've somehow become disenfranchised from them, from their children, if they have children, because they were going through their own issues. Yeah. And that maybe would have distanced their other family members. But not a person in the world. Interesting story. So when I first took over the job about 2 years ago, there was unclaimed remains of a veteran. And I review all the death certificates for all the veterans that die in the county. It's not the most fun part of the job, but it's something that we do. And what we're doing is we're looking for benefits for surviving spouses if there is a surviving spouse. The county does a burial benefit of $100 to help defray the costs of a funeral. And part of that is sending in the death certificate. But I get a call from the coroner, and they say, we have unclaimed remains of a veteran, and you're the next of kin. So if you want to make arrangements, I said, oh, wait a minute, hold on. What do you mean I'm the next of kin? I said, yeah, you're the next of kin. It's unclaimed remains of a veteran. To get someone into a national cemetery, you need to have a next of kin. You're the next of kin. And I got nervous. I was like, well, where's the body? Yeah. It's don't bring it to my office. And he goes, no, it's cremains. It's cremated remains. It's fine. I got nervous. But I've taken remains out to the National Cemetery. I've gone on third Thursdays. We should talk about that. Yeah. Third Thursdays, the third Thursday of every month at Washington Crossing Cemetery in Newtown over in Bucks County. Every third Thursday, I wish I knew the time. I believe it's 12:30. And
we'll confirm that. We'll put it in the notes.
If you could, they have a memorial service for all of the unclaimed remains of veterans from the surrounding area. And the Sons of the American Legion motorcycle riders usually come. The Guardians of Washington's Crossing come, and they do the gun salute. It's a big deal. It's a big deal because when. And I'm sorry, what's this called? I just call it Third Thursday, but it's a public. And with the pandemic, there may be rules about how many people can go and stuff like that. But it's been going on for a couple of years now. When you have unclaimed remains of a veteran and there's no one there to receive the flag, well, what do? There has to be some kind of a ceremony, and they invite people to come to the ceremony to honor veterans that don't have anyone.
It's sad and it's beautiful all at the same time, because it's sad because that veteran that doesn't have a family to be there, but it's beautiful that the people come out to actually support that and make sure, because no veteran should not have that ceremony. I take a personal pride in going and doing those. Like, we shoot the rifles off.
I saw it last week.
I just did one last week. That gentleman was the one we were actually having to find a uniform for. I got a call from the daughter, and that's how these calls come. There's a lot.
What I didn't count on is a lot of death in this job. Like I said, I'm director of veteran affairs and registrar of veteran graves, and sometimes, I can tell you right now, there's 50,000 members of the veteran community in Montgomery County. There's 72,000 in the ground.
Wow.
So, and we keep track of that in my office. We always have since its beginning, and right after World War I.
Yeah, and I think your number's light on the ones in the ground. We still got to do our cemetery census.
Yeah, we still have to do a census. It might be light. You're right, because when people come from other counties and they get buried in Montgomery County, we don't know it. But a lot of death and a lot of those unclaimed remains of veterans, I know them because they call me. Yeah. Before they die, they call me and they call my staff. but before they're deceased, and they say, hey, I would like to make arrangements for a veteran funeral. I say, okay, no problem. Well, what's the information? And when did they serve? And the guy says, well, I served from 1958. I'm like, whoa, this is you? And he said, yes. I say, he had stage 4, renal failure or cancer or a whole litany of problems. But they're like, no, they're making arrangements for themselves because there's no one else that could do it. But there's a lot of that happens, that goes on. Oh.
Don't mind Bob. So, and I really appreciate, with Tough Customer, and it was funny because when we were sitting here before we even came on, you mentioned how Horsham VFW reached out, because Jess reached out to me and said, hey, how do I become a member of Tough Customer? Yeah. I forwarded your information to her. And then, Bob, I guess, was the one, somebody who reached out to you, because there's so many veterans. Yes, there's a lot of veterans in need. There's a lot of veterans who want to help, and they don't know how to help. And that's kind of where I think the VFW, and I think we can, as a whole, and that's why I love the VFW still serving slogan, because we still want to serve. We still want to help other veterans. We still want to help our community. So Bob, kind of talk about, like, what are your expectations when it comes to serving and looking at, like, Tough Customer or things like that? Like, what was your expectation when you were looking into this or doing it? Was it just, go ahead.
Well, it started because, I heard that someone came to the Horsham VFW and they were asking about homeless veterans information. And when I thought about it, I'm like, you know what? This is a VFW, and we need to be able to have some sort of resource for veterans that come through the door who say, you know what, I'm in dire straits right now. I need something. Yep. And whatever that something is, housing, like Dennis was alluding to, or maybe, you're looking for burial benefits or something like that. That the reason why I reached out to Dennis was because I wanted to get that information from him and make it available to VFW, which I'm still working on getting a display case for pamphlets and stuff like that. The one thing I don't want it to turn into is advertising and all that. This is strictly for veterans who come in. And not only that, let's just say our bartenders are there who do a great job. They're working. Not many people are there. It's an off day. Someone comes in and says, hey, look, I'm homeless now. Something happened, X, Y, and Z. How do I go about doing this? They might not know, but at the very least, they could say, hey, look, let me see if I can get a hold of someone for you. In the meantime, here's some information that you might help you. And they could go to that area of the VFW and say, here's some information. Contact Dennis Miller, contact Walt Hartnett, contact, whoever it is. And so that's how it all started with me. I just think that if you want to get smoking and beer out of the VFW, so to speak, then hook it up with some resources. Make it a place of resource, a wealth of resources that people can fall back on in the community. Because a lot like what Dennis does for Montgomery County, that might ease the burden on him a little bit if he could say, well, locally, I know a guy in Conshohocken that can help you.
Yeah. So I refer a lot of people. As soon as I get somebody to on the phone with me, hey, I need housing, I need help with this. Mm-hmm. Dennis is the first number, and he knows that. I refer a dozen or two. I mean, how many calls are you getting a day? You mentioned
my
before?
Office gets approximately 25 new members of the veteran community a day, and it's been that way since around November. Something is going on, but we spiked. And after January, I don't know what happened, but people are calling now and they're panicked. Yeah. And they're emotional about it. And that's a change. Okay. That's a change that we're seeing right now.
Do you think that has something to do with the coronavirus, the reason why people are on edge like that?
I really have no idea. I know that if a person is, if a person is homeless, it means that they're out on the street or they're living in their car. But if they're imminently homeless, meaning that they're 30 days out from being homeless, they could call and start asking for resources. That's important. And what they do, they call the veteran crisis line and they say, I'm homeless or I'm imminently homeless. And it gets to me. But the way that it gets to me is it gets to me through VA, through Veterans Multi-Service Center. So we have all hands on deck to help the person right away. But I can't speculate what it is. Could be the time of year. Could be, I think that there's just a lot of pressure, either from the pandemic or the response to the pandemic or the weather or finances, or sometimes it's just time. Like I said, the average age is 65. I deal with people in their late 80s all the time. and sometimes they just run out of time, and they can't cognitive dysfunction, or they just run out of money. I have veterans that call me up and they say, I'm out of money. I'm just out of money. My Social Security is a certain amount. Costs keep going up, and I need some kind of help. Now, understand, I don't have a money tree, because if I did have a money tree, well, I probably wouldn't tell you.
Yeah.
But
be fly fishing somewhere.
Exactly. I was. Colorado, Mount Whitney, absolutely.
But if I may just interject there, the VFW, this is where resources can come together, and I think it's a great way to know different groups in the area. And the VFW offers a program of unmet needs.
We have unmet needs, PA Wounded Warriors, the Regular Wounded Warrior Project, Veterans Brotherhood, Travis Manion Foundation. We work with close to 100 different organizations. Now, in that 100, I'm counting the American Legions and the VFWs. We have 62 in Montgomery County. But we work with a lot of nonprofits, PA Hero Walk, Marine Corps League. I am not naming them all.
There's a lot of them.
Calls because, hey, you didn't name me, kind of a thing. But yeah, you're right. The VFW in Chalfont, just right on the edge of the county, they are very service oriented, and that's what I see. I see the VFW is just as an outsider looking in. I can't join the VFW. My wife is a member.
Misty is a member of Post 1074. Don't come and get her. I already got it done.
Dennis, where are you a member at?
What I see is that the VFWs that are more service oriented, in my opinion, tend to be doing better. And the way I say, how do I know that they're doing better, is because of the Memorial Day flags. That used to be our regular interaction with the VFWs, the American Legions, the Marine Corps Leagues, the Polish War Veterans, the Catholic War Veterans, and other like organizations. Was we distribute, I think it was last year, was 69,000 Memorial Day flags. And we're going to do it again this year. They already got their letters. And the ones that are struggling are really maybe just canteen focused.
Yeah.
And they don't have service officers, and they don't have all of the different people you're supposed to have in the line. They're struggling for membership and all that other stuff. And we try to help those out. The VFWs and other veteran organizations that don't have people to put the flags out, in the letter that we sent last month to them, we said, look, if you don't have volunteers, we'll find you volunteers. We have a volunteermatch.com account that we have access to. We have different organizations. We're at the crossroads for that civic engagement, where I have organizations calling me and they're like, we'd like to plant flags in a cemetery. And then at the same time, I have American Legions VFWs calling and saying, hey, we don't have anybody because, they're aging out. Yeah. But the ones that are more service oriented, I think, do a little bit better. And there's a lot of help on Tough Customer Talk. And I say it every time, I had to say it once during this podcast. We are
keepers and finders.
Yeah, exactly. We're keepers and finders. So you got to find the people, you got to bring them to the table, and then when you get them, you got to keep them. You got to take care of them. It's not that hard, and there's a lot of help available, and that's what my office tries to do. Is we try to get that help to the right place and kind of do a little bit of case management, wraparound care for people.
Yeah, I mean, I had a member of my post who was eminently homeless. And I referred him to I'm not going to call his name out, but I referred him to Dennis. Dennis got him hooked up. Dennis got him in temporary housing. He was staying in a hotel for a while, took care of him for a period of time. He was there for, I want to say 6 weeks, until he found, housing now. Now he's got his own apartment again. Yeah. He's working, everything's good for him. The guy, it was the beginning of the pandemic, and he shouldn't have been evicted, but, for some reason that happened. I don't want to, go into all the details of it, but, but when I got that call from my member, the first thing I said, call Dennis. Yep. Here's his number. I'm going to send you a cell phone number. Call him. If it's after, that's the thing too. I don't care if it's after hours or for whatever. I'll send you Dennis's number, and as long as he ain't busy with how old's the toddler now? What's he got to be? 1.5?
He's 2.
He's 2.
Yeah, he's going to be 2. He's kicking my ass.
Listen,
can I say ass on here?
Yeah, we'll
say
yeah.
Bible.
Yeah,
do you know? So I think you're okay to say that. But yeah, he's kicking my butt. Oh my goodness. But yeah, it's it's not just me, just to be clear. Okay, I have 3 fantastic veteran service officers that work for me. Like I said, they are a hell of a lot better at claims than I am, and I rely on their expertise all the time. I have Christina Applegate that I'm calling out by name. She's our front office person. She does all of our intake. She's an Army veteran, served in Afghanistan, military policewoman.
She's great. She gets all the emails out. She's one of my flagged ones. When I get one from Christina, I know I got to open the email and see what's going on.
She is fantastic. And then I have shuttle van drivers too that we use for other things besides shuttle van drivers. And I think what's unique with, first off, I'm a Coast Guard officer. Been a Coast Guard officer most of my life. I still sometimes say, hey, I'm Commander Dennis Miller, U.S. Coast Guard retired. I earned that freaking 05 pin and I'm keeping it. And you're allowed to. So not to sound hoity, but I have a rescuer mindset, and not to toot my own horn because a lot of people do. But it's about search and rescue for me. It always has been. And with a lot of when you're in the Coast Guard, it's a small organization. We always used to say, even now after Department of Homeland Security, there's not a lot of us. If they put us all in the Houston Astrodome, it's sitting there, we would be looking out at the other side, looking at empty seats. Yeah. It used to be smaller than the New York City Police Department. So it's not a big organization. But what we're good at doing is we're good at getting other organizations to work for us. So I have 8 people that work for me. I kind of have 28 people that work for me because there's a lot of people out there that want to help and will engage us services, and it's beneficial.
Yeah. And like you said, so 50,000 veterans, and he has 8 people in the office. Yeah. So that just tells you, you need help and you need those draw-ons. So I tell any, VFW or any organization or anybody with time, if you have time and, hey, I want to help talk to veterans, maybe I can, just communicate. Listen, I remember we talked about this beforehand. I'll just mention the first name, Frank. But I mean, when it was the beginning of the pandemic, and you couldn't find rubbing alcohol anywhere because everybody was, everybody thought that the world was going to end, and that everybody had to make their own hand sanitizer. So everybody, all the rubbing alcohol was off the thing, and the gentleman had a prosthetic leg, and to put it on his body, he has to clean it.
Get the oils off the.
He has to clean it and put it on right. And I remember with somebody on the call, it was like, hey, I got some in my cupboard. So it was like we were a tough customer. I got some right here on my, under my sink, and I'll donate it, and I remember I met him at the Plymouth Meeting Mall. And
that's not what it was about.
What do you
remember?
What was
it? To correct you, it wasn't about the rubbing alcohol for Frank.
Oh, it was also about talking to him.
It was because his best friend had just died.
Yeah.
He was all alone.
And so that's why I took the rubbing alcohol and went up there to go talk to him, and he had great stories. The man talked to my ear off for, a good 2 hours. I loved it, and
that's how a lot of people can help too. We're working with the Office of Senior Services to try to figure out a solution to this problem. A lot of times it's just checking on people. I have a couple of veterans that I talk to. There's like 6 of them during the week for about a half hour at a time, just to touch base with them. Yeah. Just to touch and just to see how they're doing, because they don't have anybody. I was on the phone. It was a first time call, so it was about an hour and a half with a Coast Guard veteran, served in the 1950s, and it was awesome. Just telling stories back and forth, and just calling up. I called them up last week. Hey, how are you doing? Hey, I'm doing okay. We talked for about 20 minutes. That makes such a difference.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, for their resilience and how they feel, and it stems developing problems, because you find out later, like I have, that I was talking to a widow about 3 months ago. I had put a claim in for her, and she says, I might lose my house in June. I'm like, what do you mean? And she goes, well, I haven't paid my taxes for 2 years.
Ooh.
And I said, if you would have told me that when we put the claim in, maybe the claim would have moved a little faster. Now I have to change your priority.
Yeah.
But we had to develop that sense of trust. Yeah. Or I would go visit a veteran, and he'd always ask me, hey, you want something to eat, or you want this, that, and the other thing? And I said, you know what, I'll take a cup of tea. And he opens up the cabinet. I'll never forget. I'm sitting in this dining room. I'm looking at the kitchen. He opens up the cabinet, and there's nothing. There's nothing in the cabinet, not a single thing.
Yeah.
And he was food insecure. He had nothing.
Yeah.
So I got him hooked up with a food bank. It's you never know. The reason that they're reaching out, it's not just because they're lonely. There's something else going on. But we are instilled with a sense of pride as veterans, and sometimes that gets in the way.
And it's, to your point, I wish VFWs were community centers, for veterans and for the community. I mean, yes, I always stress the veterans, and I always want to make sure our resources are going to veterans. But listen, we've done it before at my post. A family had their house burned down, and they were homeless, and they were not veteran related at all. Well, we wrote them a check. Yeah, take care of them, help them out. That's what we're here for. But yeah, I try to always think of our posts as community centers first and bars second. We're never going to get the shots and the beers out of the place. You were at my post last night. You see what my post is on a Friday, Saturday night. But that is a revenue stream, so we can continue to do our mission.
Well, what I think is unique about your post is it seems like everyone's family there. Yeah. And how you do go about that is exactly what you just said. Someone came to you, or you found out somehow that someone's house burned down to the ground, and you helped them out. To me, that's what brings communities together. That's what brings a community like the VFW together, where everyone's helping out, everyone might be donating. And when you have stuff like that happen, unfortunate circumstances, the positive that comes out of that are the social members, the active members, the auxiliary, all those people coming together to help one family.
Yeah. There's a fantastic organization, and I'm just thinking about it now. This is the VF. Sometimes my world gets small, and I think that Montgomery County is the only place on earth. Maybe it's how I was raised. I'm from the Bronx, and I used to think the Bronx was the whole world. Matter of fact, growing up, I used to think that you could see Hawaii off the coast of California because on the map, it's right there.
It's right there.
It's right there. And I remember being in California and looking out in the distance, and without thinking, I said to someone, "Is that Hawaii?" And they just looked at me like, "What are you, nuts?" And they said, "No, that's a Channel Islands. Yeah. That's not. No, that's why would you think?" Anyway, so my world gets small in my head, but being a Pennsylvania podcast, I want to tell you, it's easy to help. It's incredibly easy to help. And I want to tell you about an organization called the Veterans Coalition of Pennsylvania. They're out of Reading, and they work out of Gilbertsville. They work out of Reading. You should have them on here at some time. You should have Cherokee on here. They all go by call signs in this organization, and it's to make sure that veterans are not like knocking on their door. They have a certain amount of anonymity in there. I used to be able to say that word time upon a once, but they but what they do is they have a veteran stand down, a couple of different. They do
locations.
One
in Pottstown too, or is that a different organization?
They just started in Pottstown. They used to be in Gilbertsville. They do it in several spots in Reading, and all it is it's a hot meal, usually served out of a slow cookers. It's canned goods that get donated. It's donated new clothing that they have, and they do that once a month. Yeah. And that's it. And that's all that it needs to be. Sometimes my staff goes, sometimes the VA goes. We try to get people hooked up with services, but these are people that are living below the poverty line and they need help, and they're more likely to get that help from other veterans. Yeah.
I saw one time they were doing free haircuts. I know they were advertising, "Hey, we were doing haircuts this week. We got a barber."
Job fair last 2 weeks ago. They had a job fair. They were hiring people at the stand down, and any VFW could have a stand down. And if you're interested, I'll get you hooked up with the organization, or I'll try to get you started. Just contact me. My email is on the Montgomery County website for wherever you are in Pennsylvania, your VFW. But it's not hard to advertise. And what's nice about it is if you keep it small, it stays small. It doesn't get complicated. You don't get overrun.
And I know, like, even with COVID, they've seen it not as many people coming out, as they have in the past, and they're doing their best to be, mindful of COVID and keep everything at a distance. But these resources go away when you don't have people using them. Hey, we made meals for 50 members and only 20 showed up. Well, those other 30 meals, what are you going to do with them?
Well, they do a follow-up after each. I'm glad you brought that up. They do a follow-up. So they make all this food. They bring all this food. They all have all the non-perishable goods or perishable goods, and they have it all. So what do they do with it at the end? They don't throw it to the chickens. There's a lot of people that are shut-ins, that are agoraphobic, that are hoarders, that kind of a crowd, and they go and they bring meals to them. Yeah. And it's a shame because it's we're going to bring this to you this month. Yeah. And try to stick it out until next month. And it's rough that you wish you could do more. You can't go out and adopt them or anything like that. But the stand down concept is a good concept. And it's not just here in PA, it's all around the country. And like I said, VFW is, you can get into it pretty easy.
Yeah, no, I really do like it. I know, a friend of mine, Mike Grath, he's big into it. There's a lot of guys I know who
I know Mike.
Yeah, they champion them, and I've been to, I think, 2. I want to get out to more, but it's just, it always falls on it. So the third Saturday, I think, is when they do it in Pottstown, if I'm not mistaken, or something like that. I'll have to look and make sure we'll put it in the show notes to make sure we're done. But so Dennis, I know we kind of touched on the flags for Memorial Day, and I want to tell my VFW story. So we're picking up our flags on April 21st. We have about 8 cemeteries that we do. We pick up 4,500 flags, and the one thing that I can tell you, doing the flags is a year-round type of thing, because like Dennis said, he only has 8 people there. I know my numbers for the number of flags that we have to put out are wrong. And the only reason I know they're for sure wrong is because I've gotten 4,500 flags for the past 3 years. And like, nobody's passed away in the past 3 years that are veterans that need to get a flag. So and you've charged us with this, and I think you've charged other organizations with it, which is great, is do a cemetery census. Yeah. Christina Applegate has sent me, hey, well, here's everybody we think is buried at Calvary Cemetery. Now, mind you, that's 2,500 people. It's like 70 pages of names. 2,214 is what's on there. But we have to literally go out there and with these lists and go and do a census and say, okay, Joe Snuffy. Yep, I got Joe here. Good. All right, Mike, whatever. Mike's not on the list. All right, Navy veteran Mike says right here. All right, let's write his name down. Let's get him added to the list. And we take all those names and we send them to Dennis. At the end, I'm guaranteeing you there's probably 1,000 extra veterans buried at Calvary alone, because it's our biggest one. It's right there at 476 and 76 right there in West Conshohocken, and it's beautiful cemetery.
Well, think about somewhere like West Laurel Hill. Laurel Hill Cemetery is in Philadelphia. That's in a different county, but West Laurel Hill is in Montgomery County around Ballackinwood, right near Westminster Cemetery. I know too much about cemeteries.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's a lot of people there. And when someone dies in Montgomery County, we'll get notified. We'll see the death certificate. We add them to the grave registry. When people put in for the $100 burial allowance, that's another way that we collect information to get on the registry. If people want a free veteran grave flag holder,
the markers, we need a little bit of information, which you could apply online at our website to put that in. You don't have to come in the office, and we'll leave it downstairs for you. But that's another way to get on there. When you're walking these cemeteries, you know that someone is a veteran because they either have a flag holder or they have a VA, National Cemetery Administration issued headstone, or maybe something else. Yep.
And that's really it. But people that die from Philadelphia County and get buried in West Laurel Hill, the way the system is set up, I don't have any visibility on that. Or if they come from Bucks County and they come here to Montgomery County to be buried in a cemetery with 290 cemeteries, not including family plots.
Oh,
so that we have here. It's a lot of people. It's a lot of information, but I think I was told one time by an American Legion member that this is our sacred duty.
Yes.
And it is a sacred duty. And with my overactive imagination, when I'm walking the cemetery and I'm putting the flags and I'm reading the headstones and I'm thinking about stuff. We have Medal of Honor recipient in Westminster Cemetery.
Wow.
I think he was a major. I should have written it down, but that's a big deal. There's not a lot of those. They get a special flag holder. That's from the Medal of Honor Society, but it's important. It's tradition.
Yeah. We just took over. So, I'll riff a little bit here. So we just took over Barron Hill, which is right there in Lafayette Hill.
Yeah.
And we were out there. And when we were out there, we saw other people putting out flags, and they were the sons and daughters of the American Revolution. Yes. And they were putting out the flags with the 13 flags in the circle. And so I had to tell my group that was with me, hey, if you see those, don't touch their flags because they're American, their sons and daughters of American Revolution. We don't, we want to respect their thing. So I just want to tell. So when I came to my post 5 or 6 years ago, when I first did the first Memorial Day, there was like 12 of us to do Calvary. We were there all day. I mean, we literally walked that entire cemetery, and I looked up in the end and I'm like, this is the dumbest. What are we doing? Like, why are we doing this by ourselves? Why are we doing this with the 12 people? And I have a picture of the 12 people, and I re-put it up every time. This past year when we did it, we had over probably 100 people show up to plant flags. We promote it. People don't go on Memorial Day vacation, like, because we do it the Saturday before Memorial Day.
Yep.
We do cavalry. We do a whole bunch of them the week leading up, and it is very rewarding.
Well, the Sons of I'll tell you a story, and hopefully I'm not giving away any intel. But when I first took the job, I'm looking at the grave registry, looking at the number of people from the American Revolution that are buried in the county, and I'm looking at the number, and I'm like, that can't be right. 34 people. Valley Forge was fought here. How does that happen?
Yeah.
So I called the Sons of the American Revolution, and I asked them, I said, I would like to get your information added to the grave registry. And they said, no. And I said, okay, because why? Like, I'm not trying to get all legal on you. I'm new to the job. It's in the Pennsylvania Constitution. But why don't you want to give me the information? And the way that the Sons of the American, fascinating organization, the way that, and they're not going to get rid of me, and this is why. I'm going to tell you, this is going to be the punchline. But when you're driving around different towns in Montgomery County, around Memorial Day, you'll see one of the Betsy Ross flag.
Yeah. Somewhere,
middle of nowhere. Maybe in someone's backyard, maybe, in the green space between the sidewalk and the road. It's nice. It's festive. It's Memorial Day. Yeah. And that is a dead American Revolutionary War soldier, because in the Revolutionary War, they buried you where you died.
Where you fell, yeah.
Where you fell. That's exactly where they buried you. And there are houses in Skippack that they call me up and they say, we want to build on this plot. We want to put a garage in our backyard. But it says on our deed that there's an American Revolutionary War soldier by name in our backyard. And, what do we do with it? And I said, well, what you do is you don't do anything, and I'll get you a flag. For Memorial Day. But your garage, they're no good. And it's funny, what they do is, because of digging and what is it, a call before you dig, the Sons of the American Revolution puts a metal pole in the vicinity of the grave with a coin on the top that says Revolutionary War soldier, so that it'll ping the metal detector
when 311 comes out and does
and does their thing. This is a whole thing happening all around us.
Yeah.
That you have no idea. I mean, all the places where I saw some of these flags on the side of the road, I didn't know that was a active grave site, so to speak. And they put the flags out and then they take them out. And the people that put the flags out are the relatives, because to be in the Sons of the American Revolution, you have to be a direct descendant of someone who fought in the war. So Ernie, my son, was born in April 2 years ago. And my wife had nothing better to do. She's on Ancestry.com. And she looks and she says, oh, wow, this man, Joseph Groff, was my great ×5 grandfather. And he fought in the Revolutionary War. And I said, yeah, that's great. And she said, oh, yeah, he's at Old Goshenhoppen Cemetery in Harleysville. I said, what?
Yeah.
And she said, yeah, and we went to the graveside. I put an extra grave marker on there just because. And I was like, that's great. And then I called the Sons of the American Revolution and I said, I have a new member for you.
There you go,
Ernie. And they said, really? Okay, well, where's he from? I gave his name, his address. And they said, okay, well, how old is he? And I said, oh, he's 6 months old.
Yeah.
And they said, what? I said, yeah, he's my son.
There you go.
He's 6 months old. I would like to put in an application. And I'm still waiting on that damn application. But,
I have a question. How can a post get on the list? How can a post get on the list to put out flags and help?
They will call there for Montgomery County. Give me a call. For every other county in Pennsylvania, call your county director. If you go to the Department of Military and Veteran Affairs website, there's a PDF list of county directors, and it's got all of the county directors' names, phone number, email's probably the best way, because a lot of us are not working. I'm in the office maybe once every 2 weeks. Right now. And it's a pretty active, it's a good list. It's a current list, but you get with your county director of Veteran Affairs and tell them that you want to sign up.
And if there's no cemetery, partner up with other organizations. I would tell you, go out to other organizations. I know when I think it was that first meeting, or when you had a meeting at Montgomery County and you had a list of orphaned cemeteries.
Oh yeah, we still have a couple of them, but we had a problem. We had 79 orphan cemeteries at the time, and other organizations stepped up.
So explain what do you mean by orphan cemeteries?
An orphan cemetery is a cemetery that doesn't have a veteran caretaker. So VFWs and American Legions go away. They no longer have people to fulfill that responsibility. People change all the time. No one's picking up the flags and no one's putting the flags out. And it happens every year at Memorial Day where someone says there's my relative, I went to the cemetery for Memorial Day and my relative didn't have a flag on their grave. And that usually gives us a clue that maybe someone missed it or no one's putting out flags at the cemetery. So that's how we learned about the orphan cemeteries. And then what we tell them is, well, you come by the office, we'll give you a flag.
Yeah.
It's from the county. You already paid for it, so to speak. It's with your taxes. And then I try to recruit them to put flags out for everyone else at that cemetery because we need caretakers for every cemetery. It doesn't have to be a VFW American Legion. The Glenside Patriotic League. I don't know
Some
where
Boy Scout troops, right?
I don't know where they came from or what they do, but they do a fantastic job.
Yep.
And that's the other thing with a lot of organizations use Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and other youth organizations, and that's something to see.
Yeah, the Scouts help us out.
Well, it's like ants crawling over a mound of sugar. They take care of it.
Yeah.
As long as nobody gets hurt or lost, it's a success.
So the VFW markers are those flat stones, and in Calvary specifically, there's one lot where it's nothing but flat stones the entire way.
Yeah.
So whenever I have my Boy Scouts, I tell them pick up a couple boxes and head all the way over there and start working your way this way.
Almost every cemetery has a veterans only section.
Yeah.
And the reason is it's built into the law that the VA will pay for the cost of the funeral, but they have to have a veterans only section. That's for service connected deaths.
Yeah. So but then obviously there are some that are next to their family plots because they're buried next to their wife, they're buried next to their aunt, whoever, whatever it is. But yeah, Calvary has that. So do you guys do it at Horsham? I don't even know if I know Horsham used to have cemeteries. Did you partake in that last year? Or you know what's going on there?
With putting flags in.
Yeah.
I think we did something. I think we did wreaths on graves this year.
That would have been for Christmas. I know it was weird this year because of COVID. Like we didn't get all the flags, but I'd be interested. But that's something I would bring up to your post and your post leadership. Hey, do we have flags?
I'll get with you during the week. I'll look on the registry and see if you guys are signed up for any cemeteries and we'll figure it out.
Awesome. Yeah. And you have my email address. So.
Camera, I would surreptitiously write you a note that says, hey, Walt, this would be a good time to bring up caretakers. So,
yeah.
Oh, okay, good deal.
Yeah. We got about 5 minutes left here and we're about to wrap it all up. But
yeah.
What's like the biggest problem? What's the biggest problem you're having?
The biggest problem is caretaker support for aging veterans. That's the number one problem that we run into. Most of the other issues already have a program associated with it for homelessness, suicide prevention, drug addiction, a lot of happy stuff. Mm-hmm. Food insecurity, medical care. We have a program for that. But there's a lot of people out there that are caretakers of veterans, and they're just burned out. We have a lot of situations where there's 10 kids or 5 kids, and the parents are getting older, and it's always one of the kids who's a sucker and has a heart of gold and is taking care of their parents and runs himself into the ground.
Yeah,
it does not get a day off. I understand that an older person, when they're being taken care of, it's a toddler. It's the life that I'm living right now. You're changing bedding. You're changing, depends. They're up every 2 hours. There's dementia. There's crying. It's not. It's really tough. And caretakers don't get a rest. Now there is caretaker support out there from the county. Caretaker support. There's a new act that came out from the VA. They're still trying to figure out how they're going to dispense that services. But these people just need a break sometimes, or they need someone to talk to. We're talking about trying to start up caretaker circles where just caretakers could just talk to each other and just vent and just have a conversation. That's just not about taking care of their parents. We did want to start encourage people to enter into agreements. We're kind of like a mother or Father's Day Out program with kids, but the pandemic kind of stopped us in our tracks. Where if you have 3 caretakers and 3 veterans and they're at home and they're taking care of their older parent, well, they could take 2 of them and bring them to one, and then 2 people get a day off. Yeah, and they just trade duties like that, and it's. I think it would be beneficial, but that's the hardest part of the job right now is caretakers are trying to arrange services for them because there's not a lot of programs for that, and it's really tough. And the solution is not for most people. The solution financially and from a values perspective, it's not to put them in a long-term care facility. And that's a whole other ball of wax. But if caretaker support is something that just gnaws at me every day.
Yeah, I can't imagine it. And like you said, it's that baby boomer, generation is coming up that's needing this care more and more, as it comes up. And yeah, the veteran population has a share of that. But yeah, I don't look forward to that. I'm lucky I'm not in that situation with my parents, and my parents are good and in that situation. But I have friends where they're dealing with that, and it takes on a whole nother responsibility of its own. And to know that there's not really a good safety net or a good program is kind of scary. And it's something
there's not, but if there's someone that is listening that says, "Oh no, Dennis, you're stupid," and there is a program, please, I reserve the right to get smarter every day, and
Absolutely.
I need it. So just, but give me a call and tell me what I'm missing. It's home health aides are, some of them are fantastic. Well, it's long-term care facilities, nursing homes. Some are fantastic, and some are pits of human misery.
Yeah.
Home health aides. Some are fantastic angels in disguise.
Yeah.
Others are going to steal your identity and everything that you own. It's treacherous. It's a hard nut to crack, but it's something that we try to keep an eye on in my office too, about what facilities, what home health agencies, but there's so many out there, and it falls under advocacy. It's not an official part of the job, but it's just something that we watch out for, and it's not good. And I wish I had a solution. They always said in the Coast Guard, don't bring the fire without the fire extinguisher. I just have fire. I don't have a fire extinguisher.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody does. So we're going to wrap this up pretty soon here, but I just wanted to, make the reason why I wanted to bring Dennis on here is I know not every VFW. I know this is the Pennsylvania VFW podcast. I know not every VFW is in Montgomery County. I hope you have a Dennis Miller type in your county and in your VFW area. And if you don't, just find them, because there are a lot of VSOs, there are a lot of organizations. We don't have to do this alone. I think so often the VFWs feel like we're island states and we have to be solely, secure in everything that we do, and we can't reach out for help. As much as we tell veterans they got to reach out for help, I think as organizations we have to reach out for help.
And a lot of county directors, please understand, in Pennsylvania, I'm lucky. I have a lot of people. I have a lot of population, but I have a lot of people. Most county directors are a force of one. Not the Chuck Norris movie, but they're a force of, which is arguably his best movie. But they,
Delta Force was good.
From a kung fu point of view, I'm a force of one type person. But that was the first PG movie I ever saw. But I digress. Apparently, what's that called? They're a force of one. It's just them, or it's a very small office. It's like a director, a VSO, and the dog's the only one that types. That's how it is through a lot of smaller counties. So if a VFW reaches out to them and say, "Hi, I am here to help you. I'm here to help you find people. I'm here to help you make sure that people don't fall in between the cracks. I'm here to help you because you're shorthanded on resources," I think they'll take that call.
Yeah. And so I was just on a call last night, and for some of you know, I'm going to be the Eastern Region membership director, and these are
you must have missed a meeting. Someone voted you in.
Yeah, exactly. So
I was going to say, how the heck?
Yeah. So this is for the Eastern Region of Pennsylvania, and membership comes. It's one of those things where if you're doing the right things, membership is going to happen. I don't set out and say, "Oh, I have to recruit 2 new members today." No, I set out to say we're going to do an event and have 100 people there. I try to have events and be involved in the community, and membership is going to just happen. It's that whole proverbial just go out to the club. You're going to meet somebody. Like you have to make yourself available. And sometimes VFWs, we stay inside of our little doors, we stay inside of our walls, and we don't venture out. I know some VFW, I don't like the Legion, I don't like this. Let me tell you right now, those other organizations, they're struggling just like us. And if 3 of you organizations get together, maybe one of you can't accomplish one of these big tasks, but maybe the 3 of you combined can.
Pottstown does that.
Yeah.
Pottstown has a I'm going to get calls because I can't remember the name, but basically to get stuff done. 5 organizations: Vietnam Veterans of America, 2 American Legions, a VFW, and my memory's escaping me, but they all got together several years ago. They are still independent organizations in and of themselves. They still have charters, they have memberships, officers, installations, all that stuff. But because their numbers were so low, when it came to getting stuff done, they banded together.
And I think I had this idea of pods, like 2 or 3 VFWs that, hey, or organizations, hey, we're going to band together. And when we try to take on these big elephant problems, we can be there. Because listen, my post, I might have 4 or 5, members, active members. I mean, I have tons of socials, and nothing gets done at Conshohocken VFW if it's not for my social members. They're lifeblood. They attend my events. They volunteer their time, sometimes more than my active guys. But my active guys, I only have so many, and I'm losing some really good ones. I lost 2 really good ones this year due to death because they're getting older. And these guys are, Vietnam and World War II veterans. And, and it breaks my heart. And I always think about what's that next man up mentality, and how that looks at, I know you went through it with Horsham. I know you guys saw a change in your leadership, and you guys are trying to grow out, and you're trying to do, bigger and better things in the community, and I appreciate all those things that I see.
Well, you both have good events, and I think the events is the driver.
Yeah,
like you were saying, that's it, having that kind of interaction, and it's not just that you're going to show up and they're going to read the meeting minutes, and then they're going to introduce new business, and they say that you can't strangle yourself. This is, but I don't think that's true, because they say that if you have your grip like this and you strangle yourself, that eventually you'll pass out and you'll lose your grip.
Yeah.
No, go to some of those meetings. You could certainly strangle yourself to death because you want to, because they're tough meetings. That's not what you want members for a business meeting. You want members to do the kind of events that you do, or because this helps me, you want them to help people. It feels so good to help people. It's you talk about losing a lot of people. When I speak to veterans and my VSOs speak to veterans, we all know in the back of our head or in the back of our mind that that you could be going to their funeral later. This could be an end of life scenario, and oftentimes it is.
Yeah.
But to be able to help them while they're still here, that's what keeps you going.
Absolutely.
Dennis, I have a question for you. We talked about burial benefits. We got into some things about flags and all that. But what are some other services? What are some other things you and the people at your office offer that maybe might have gone unnoticed, or additional things?
First thing I'm going to do is point you to the website, Montco, PA, not the one in Maryland, but www.montcopa.org/266. You could write out Veteran Affairs, but if you spell it wrong, just put in 266, you get to our website. We're updating our website. We update our website every year. Everything is on there. You could apply for real estate tax exemptions, flag holders. You could just email a question in. You could do a lot of stuff online. We had to do that because of the pandemic. We had to open up our business lines a bit. We don't work in the office anymore. We're out on the road. We do claims for service-connected disability. We do claims for what's called improved pension. We do dependent indemnity compensation pensions. That's a big one. The National Defense Authorization Act this year just included hypothyroidism, bladder cancer, and like I said, thank God I have my VSOs because, and Parkinsonian type symptoms to presumptive conditions for Agent Orange. So we're doing a lot of those claims now. But if a widow lost their spouse who served boots on the ground in Vietnam and died of bladder cancer 10 years ago or 5 years ago or something like that, we could do a posthumous presumptive condition claim, and we can get that person a pension. And most pensions depends on how much you're making already, and they kind of top you up. No, this is a DIC pension is different. It's $1,400 regardless of how much you're making. To some of these older widows and widowers, that's a life-changing amount of money. We run the Veterans Shuttle, which will take people from their house in Montgomery County to a VA medical center and back again. That's a free service that we offer. We have flag holders. We do burial benefits. We help arrange for gravestones. And this sound, I'm just going to wrap it up with this. Go to the website because I know I'm missing out on stuff. But if you need something, just ask, and maybe we could find someone.
Yeah, that's what the tough customer is all about.
It's advocacy for the veteran community, for veterans, and for veteran spouses. We'll try to figure something out. We don't want to send anyone away, without getting something.
And that Rolodex is full. I mean, I've seen him use J-Dog, Clint Matthews. I'll give him a call out because we've called Clint, hey, we need help clearing out somebody's backyard and property. So can J-Dog come and help? And they're on it. There is a plethora of organizations that want to help, that are just looking for things to do. And it changed a little bit with the pandemic, but it's still there. And the need and the want is still there.
And they don't even need to be an organization. If they want to be a person that could help. I have a veteran friend. He's an HVAC guy and he does HVAC work.
There you go.
Just to help people out. And he charges accordingly.
There you go.
So if they're in need, maybe he doesn't charge them at all. But if you want to help, just give me a call. We're all finders and keepers.
There you go. Anything to end up, Bob? I'm going to close it up here about 2 minutes. Anything on parting shots? Anything you got to get out?
Parting shots? No. I appreciate, Dennis. I appreciate your time coming on. I think these benefits are really important because I don't even think half the county, in Montgomery County anyway, really understands that there is a Veterans Affairs. I think that that's, and I don't mean any disrespect to you.
I didn't know. I went through another organization, Disabled American Veterans. They're fantastic. I'm a life member, but I didn't know that I had county representatives that did this. Service-connected disability is so misunderstood. People think that you had to be in the hospital, or you had to serve in combat, or you had to get shot or lose a limb.
Yeah.
And they don't want to take money away from the person that lost both of their limbs. Well, let me tell you something. The person who lost both of their legs would probably rather have their legs, but they are taken care of. They're probably pulling in $140,000 a year tax-free. Thank God. Service-connected disability is a different program. It's for the people that hurt their back, or it aggravated an injury, or mental health issues that they have, or a bad knee, musculoskeletal issues. It's read up on the website. You'll see.
Yeah. Thank you. That's it. I just encourage, I just want to make another announcement. For those of you, I tagged some of my friends on the western side of the state. You're not forgotten. We're going to start making a push to reach out into some of those counties and stuff like that to provide information out that way on the western side of the state there in the center of the state. Me and Walt have talked about it. Our conversation is ongoing. We're trying to make this the best resource for you that we can. If you have any ideas or suggestions, please reach out to everyone that has liked and shared the page and hopefully start commenting. Nate Moss, Jessica Johnson Castle chimed in. I think it's really awesome that you got what you guys are doing. So the only way to make this happen and get it out is by you sharing it, by you liking it, by you commenting on it. And hopefully this can be the best that it can be. So I look forward to continue working on this with Walt. I know, Walt, you're excited for it. So any questions, ideas?
On those remote, to be able to have, because I know getting down here to be in the studio, not everybody can do it. So we're working on a way to have remote guests so we can still do the podcast with people remote. That's the whole thing with Jess King. She's out there in District 29, like I said, all the way out in Pittsburgh. Jim Brown is in the center of the state, northern center of the state.
It's good fly fishing over there.
There you go. Dave Pearl is local. He's District 8, which is like Bucks County, but he might even be remote call in when he does, get on for the legislative. So there's no limit to this. I appreciate everybody who goes on iTunes and is downloading it and listening to it. Even if you catch it right here on Facebook, I ask you to subscribe, because those numbers are what's going to tell us that it's reaching out to a lot of people. We were looking at the metrics of who's downloading these things. We're getting a pretty good rate of downloads through our services.
Oh, I know I'm a guest. Can I do a shameless plug too?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay, good. Project Healing Waters. I talk about fly fishing all the time, but I'm a member of Project Healing Waters. I've been for a couple of years since I took this job for my own issues. You could find them on Facebook. You could find them online. There is going to be a chapter near you. I fly fished years ago. I'm heavily into it now because it's a form of therapy for me and my wife.
There you go.
Fly fishing, fly tying. They supply the expertise and the materials. Fly fishing is not cheap to get into. It's kind of like golf. golf is for people that, don't
got
know how
some
to fly
bucks.
fish. And, but the thing is Project Healing Waters is a fantastic organization. I'm out of the Royersford chapter. We used to meet in the VFW out there. We don't anymore since the pandemic. Most of our meetings are online. It's easy to get involved. It's a good group of people, but thank you.
Yeah. So I'll end it with this. I appreciate everybody tuning in and reaching out. We have a lot of great organization things we can be talking about. Again, I want to thank Cracked Bell Productions donating the studio time. Please sign up for the Healing Hope, the Finding Hope panel on the 24/7 to 8 p.m. It's going to be done on Zoom, and our upcoming episodes, we'll be doing another one on March 6th about the legislative, and then March 20th will be women veterans. What was I going to say? Yeah. And yeah, Dennis. Oh, that's the other thing too. Listen, once this whole pandemic thing stops, Dennis has a banjo and he has guitar therapy classes that he does with the veterans. They were doing them on Zoom for a while.
My friend Uncle Sam, he may come and visit you.
Oh my God. I'll post that picture in the comments as well of the picture of Uncle Sam.
He's a good guy. He's a little bit of a pain, but he's a good guy. Yeah.
We'll ask Misty what he says. But yeah, so we're gonna outro with Dennis playing the harmonica and leading us out.
Just give us we have a couple people who are commenting now. I just wanted to give them a shout out. August Ott, is here.
There you go.
Misty Ann Schramm Miller. We love Project Healing Waters.
Woman in Pennsylvania. Just
yeah. Somebody's trying to get lucky.
It is being recorded, so she's checking in. So I just wanted to give some shout outs and
we appreciate it. We appreciate the follows and everybody commenting. And it's pretty soon we're going to get to this. We were talking about doing like an Ask Me Anything. We'll open up the comments to kind of get questions in and kind of answer them as they come in and things like that. So, but yeah, I appreciate it. All right, go ahead, take us away there.
All right.
Thank you.
Hey, beautiful brother. Look at that. Out before one.
Awesome.
Oh.
Yeah, we did cover it. It went good.